Hi guys, it's Kurt Provost here, your guide to all things NuSkin. A couple of years ago, I was traveling in Peru and I was expanding business there, NuSkin. I was working with a new team member who had also traveled from Australia. This was, of course, just before the world got locked down and we don't really move around in the same way that we used to. I'm certainly missing the mountains of Peru, that is for sure. But we had this amazing adventure there. It was a very challenging adventure because I didn't speak Spanish at that time, and nonetheless, we were doing meetings and doing the best that we could. And so I was staying with this new team member's old school friends. They rented out spare rooms on Airbnb, so I was one of their tenants. And we just arrived the night before, did a demonstration for the wife, and in the morning we were having breakfast with the husband. So my new team member, myself, and the husband. And he was sitting there with his arms crossed, looking down his nose at both of us and at what we were presenting him with in regards to NuSkin. You see, my new team member was very enthusiastically sharing different details about NuSkin with his old friend. And his old friend was not open in the slightest. He was completely closed off. And get this, he was closed off because about 20 years ago, he knew a guy who was with another network marketing company, and as far as he was concerned, that guy never amounted to anything by his judgment, and that reflects poorly on that company, and therefore NuSkin is the same thing as what that guy was doing, which is, wildly incorrect to make a judgment about what someone else is doing with a totally different company and what they choose to do, whether or not they had the skills necessary or were willing to do the things that were required in order to make that a success for them, or whether or not their life actually was even a success or a failure deemed by this guy's judgment. You can't really make that appraisal of someone's life without knowing all the details of their life. Nonetheless, he was saying that story is exactly the same as NuSkin, same thing in his eyes. And my new team member was going red in the face, attempting to change his mind in regards to this. And it got really heated. It's kind of like I had to intervene a bit and be like, all right, guys, just chill out. It's okay. He's not open. That's fine. That's fine. You're just looking for people who are open to something. And in reality, that guy didn't need what NuSkin had to offer. He wasn't even open to taking a look at NuSkin to see what they had to offer. But nonetheless, he didn't need it because he was retired. He was quite happy with his lifestyle. He was harvesting a reasonable income from the renting out of the spare rooms, the Airbnb-ing, and all that sort of stuff. So he had no desire to do something extra. He had no ambition to go and create something new. And so my new team member was ultimately barking up the wrong tree. And eventually we managed to extricate ourselves from the argument and set off into the day to do other meetings that went way better than that one. But it was a powerful lesson. It's the idea that you don't need to convince people. You just need to find people who are actually open to taking a look. And then they can decide for themselves. You don't need to coerce them into joining this business. However, it got me thinking about this idea how when you're new in the business, things affect you more than once you've had some experience. Once you've had some friends perhaps do that to you, people who you thought were extremely open-minded act the complete opposite of what you thought. Once you have a few experiences of that and you encounter some negativity out there, you will change your perspective and you will strengthen yourself as well, and you will ultimately develop those three beliefs: that belief in the product, the belief in the company, and the belief within yourself. And once you have those three beliefs, you become somewhat bulletproof, or immune at least, to the negativity and perhaps the poor judgment of other people. Because that is definitely something that it's some difficult terrain that you need to traverse in the early days of your business with NuSkin and with ultimately any network marketing company, because you will be navigating through people's negative perception of the industry, and that's a difficult thing for a human being to deal with. If you can get through and break through that negative perception and get through onto the other side of it and do what most people don't expect of you. Because what happens to most network marketers? Well, they join and they talk to a few people and then they quit within a month or two. And they're not even around long enough to follow up with the people who have changed their mind, who perhaps said no to them initially, but then they had a need suddenly. So then they're trying to get back to them. They're not even in business long enough for that to happen. And I've had that happen time and time again within my own organization. And so if you can be one of those ones who can break through the other side and fortify that belief within yourself and continue and be persistent and learn the skills that are necessary and get better with time, then you will come out the other side where that negative perception shifts, and it shifts to admiration. Suddenly people really respect you when you've been building a network marketing business for anything longer than a year, because most people only build it in weeks or months and then they're gone to something else. It got too hard for whatever reason and they quit, and perhaps they encountered that wall of negativity and they just didn't have the support necessary to break through it. And so I want to give you that support right now. There's a quote that's, I think it's fantastic. It's this idea of your goal is to cross the swamp, not to fight all the alligators in it. And so always keep in mind, what is the reason that you are doing this business? Why is it that you're working with this company right now? Keep that in mind. Because if it's just to earn a little bit of extra money, that's fantastic. Like, whatever the reason is, own it. It's yours. There's no expectation here for you. Not everyone has to be like, all right, I'm going to build a multinational organization that will be generational income. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. It can be at whatever level you want, whatever level you are happy with, as long as you know what it is that you want. That is you crossing the swamp. For me, I want freedom, because I have come to realize that life is kind of like this: problem, 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 crisis, problem. And I don't mean that in some sort of nihilistic negative sense. I mean it, I'm quite an optimist, if you haven't noticed already. I mean it realistically speaking. Life is full of challenges and full of problems. No one escapes life unscathed. That's why I'm not a huge fan of the idea of privilege and different privileges and kind of tallying up the privileges that other people have collected, and victim mentality of, oh, well, I didn't have those privileges. You know what? Life is difficult for everyone. Everyone is bruised and damaged and scarred by the end of life, because it is a series of problems. They are different problems for everyone, but no one is immune. Even if you are a multimillionaire, a billionaire, whatever, problems don't disappear. You're not immune from cancer. You're not immune from personal tragedy within your life. You're not immune from heartbreak and loss. So it's really important to appreciate that and realize that, okay, if life is a series of problems followed by a crisis and then more problems, then it would make sense to prepare for those times of hardship that are certainly coming. I have had many times of crisis within my life, and I'm sure you have too. That is not unique. That is something that we all go through. Preparing for it though, that is unique. That is something special, and I think that's what many people are doing with their NuSkin business, although they may not be conscious that they're doing that, because ultimately that's what we're creating, is that plan B. When shit happens, you know that we've got that flexible business. We've got a business that is international. We've got a business that's digital, that is very hard to shut down. I mean, lockdown has happened. We just went online. We went social. We went digital. And it has helped grow the business, if anything. So that is the goal at the end of the swamp. That's the crossing the swamp for me. Now, fighting alligators in that swamp is not the goal. So I'm not going to be participating in that. I'm not going to be chasing. What's that saying from Winston Churchill? It's going to be a very long journey if you stop to throw stones at every dog that barks along the way. Something like that. I probably just butchered it. But the idea is, if you try and chase like my new team member did, and try and rationalize and argue with every single person who views the world in a different way to you, you're not going to get anywhere. So it's important to remember what your goal is and why you're crossing this swamp. Now, if there is an alligator on your pathway, as you're crossing the swamp, then sure, fight that alligator. That is uniquely your alligator. But I'm not going to go out of my way to go and fight other alligators. And this is all being brought up and shared right now because a fellow viewer sent me an email after that pyramid thingy video that I made recently. If you haven't seen it, you can check it out here. I think it's an important message that distributors need to be fortified with, and it's that idea that you can answer that objection of, oh, is this a pyramid thing? You can answer that with tranquility and elegance, and it doesn't have to be a stressful situation or an argument or anything confrontational. So go and check out that video if you haven't. But this viewer sent me this email, and thank you for that, thanking me for the video, and then sharing a few video links to YouTubers who were critiquing NuSkin, who were basically the polar opposite to what I said in that video. They're against NuSkin. And the thing is that you're always going to find that. They are the alligators in the swamp. Now, currently they are not on my pathway, because this is what the viewer was saying within the email, is someone should respond to them. Someone should, like fight back against that. And I'm not so sure. I mean, if they actively ruining business, then sure, that should be spoken up against, and maybe I might be the person to help do that. But at the moment, they remain alligators in the swamp that are not on my pathway. And so there's always going to be this negative noise out there, and people will always find what they want, what they are looking for online. So if someone is against this business, if they're not open, all they have to do is type into Google, like, NuSkin is a scam, or insert whatever company name and then scam afterwards, and you will find information that will confirm that for them. That's the beauty of the internet, is you can find whatever you want to find. And so we have this massive confirmation bias that we're living within now. It's this echo chamber where what we look for, we find, and so it just keeps getting fed back to us. That's okay, because that will keep all the negative people, all the people who won't be successful at this business because they can't take individual responsibility for themselves. They're looking for reasons outside of themselves as to why they are failing. It's because of the products, it's because of the companies, because the founders did this thing God knows how many years ago. It's because this person did that, and all this. It's always outside of themselves. It's never, I didn't succeed because I didn't do what I needed to do. I didn't get up every day and share this with my utmost ability. And so with that in mind, it's not such a bad thing having the yin and the yang, having the darkness and the light there, because it will attract and it will sift and sort for you. If someone is out there actively looking for that information, they're obviously not open right now. And that's okay. You can check back in with them later on. Just as my team member should be checking back in with that old school friend right now, because you know what? Peru hasn't had any tourists for over a year and a half now, and so their Airbnb income has all but dried up. And they are probably much more open now than they were before, and so it's probably a good time to check in. They may still be closed, and that's okay. You don't need to convert everyone, you don't need to convince anyone. Just find those who are open and keep checking in with people. That is your duty, that is your role as a distributor, is to go out there and find those open enough to take a look at the products, take a look at the business if that's what they're interested in, and decide for themselves whether it's a fit for them. That's it. So I think I will leave this here. It has gone on for long enough. These are my rambling thoughts for today. I am Kurt Provost, your guide to all things NuSkin. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for the next video that will be coming out shortly. Ciao, guys.